Hi everybody, today we're moving on in Unit 10 and we are going to start a little kind of mini unit on how to graph and work with different points and objects through something called transformations. And today we're specifically looking at translations. But before we get started, let's do a quick little review. Make sure you remember how to graph points. Remember that when we're graphing points that we have to remember that it goes X and then Y. So when I'm graphing these points, for the first one I've got 3, -2. So in the X direction I'm moving a +3. Well, that's to the right. And for the Y I'm moving -2, which is down. So I would put a point there. And there we go. That's my point. I am going to put a label on it just so I know which one's which. For the second one, it would be -4. Because I'm going -4 in the X direction and +5 in the Y direction. So -4, +5. And I'm putting my label. All right, so hopefully that's a pretty quick, easy review, but we do need to remember how to do this in order to be successful in our lesson today. So first things first, we've got some key terms to look at. A transformation is a very generic term for what we're going to be doing over the next 3 days. It's a change of the position, shape, or size of a figure. So there are 3 types of transformations. They slide things, so they might like pick up something and move it to the right, or move it down, or move it kind of back into the left. It could flip it, so that would be like a mirror image, or it could turn a shape, and that would be doing like a rotation. So today, specifically, we are going to look at translation, which is the slide, where we move every point of a figure the same distance and in the same direction. Move every point of a figure the same distance and in the same direction. So a couple terms we need to know for the next 3 days is image. Image is the figure you get after a transformation. And prime notation, which is written as A prime, is the notation that we use to write an image point. So we would say that the pre-image is the shape that you get before you move it. And then let's say I move it to the right. Now this one would be the image after I move it. Oops. And we'll look at how to do the prime notation as we go. So translate the point F for 1, down 6 units and right 2 units. What are the coordinates of the image F prime? Well, let me start by graphing this point. We've got 4, 1, so remembering X, Y. I'm going to move +4 and +1. And this is my point F. Well, then it tells me to do 2 different things. It says to go down 6 units, so I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and right 2 units. And then this will give us our new point, and we're going to call it F prime. Now it says, what are the coordinates of the image F prime? So we need to say, what's the ordered pair for this? So I would go, starting from the origin, I would go right 6 and down 5. Right 6, down 5. So since I'm going right 6, that's a +6. And then down 5 would be -5. So that would be my coordinates. Translate the point G of -2, 3. So here's point G. Translate it up 3 units. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And left 1. Oops, didn't know I could do that. Oops, I already used purple. Let's use burgundy. And left 1. And that's going to give me my new shape. Or my new point, excuse me. And I'm going to call that G prime. So the coordinates for that shape, or that point, excuse me, I keep doing that, is I'm going to move left 3. So in the X direction, I get -3. Y, I'm moving up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice that with the coordinates, I'm not writing about the rule. I'm writing about what is the ordered pair coordinates in terms of like starting from the origin, how do I get there? It's like kind of like giving me directions to get there. It's not talking about the rule, although we'll look at how to write the rule later. So the vertices of this symbol right here means triangle. It's just defining that ABC is a triangle. Our A is -4, 3. So I'm going to put that here and label it. Point B is at -1, 4. And C is at -3, 1. And since they told me it's a triangle, I'm going to go ahead and connect my dots. Now, it says to translate it left 3 and up 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to take every single point, A, B, and C, and move it left 3, up 1. So let's start with the left 3. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And then each of those also has to go up 1. And when I put the new points in there, it's going to look like this. This point, when I moved it, it's coming from B, so this is B prime. This point is A prime. And this point is C prime. Connecting my dots. And this would be my triangle. Now, it says use arrow notation to show the translation. And so instead of writing the coordinates for each point, we're going to write a general rule for what's happening. So we're going to say for the pre-image, remember that this shape here is the image. It's after the translation. To get from our pre-image to our image, we had to move left 3. So we're going to take the x coordinate and subtract 3 because we're moving in the negative direction and we're moving 3 units. For the y coordinate, we're saying, okay, we're taking what our y coordinate was and moving it up 1 or adding 1. So it's going to be y plus 1. So we can check this. What it means is that I can take the point B, which was at -1, 4, and when I apply this rule, I'm saying that I'm going to take, oh wait, I forgot. I say that I start at the point x, y, and then I move, and this is where we get the name arrow notation. So this is saying that with the arrow notation, I would take my x coordinate, and I would subtract 3, my y coordinate, and add 1. Well, -1 minus 3 would give me -4, 5. Let me check that. -4, 5. Oh, that's where I have my point. So that means I did this correctly. This work right here is not something that you have to show. This is me showing you why we do this and why this works. It's also a check your work kind of way. But this is the arrow notation that you will need to show. All right. So try this one, graph triangle JKL, and then show the translation on the graph, and then use arrow notation to show the translation. So this is what your triangle for JKL, I made a mistake. This should say a K right here, and this should say L. I just realized that. So I wondered why I had JBC, but okay. So let's fix it real quick, K and L. All right, so this is what triangle JKL should look like. If you're having trouble, then think about taking each point and moving it right 4 and down 3. Take a second, try that. So as you can see, I've got some of my translations shown, but each of them should look like this. And then when we fill in our final triangle, we should see something that looks like this. Now, I want to be careful when I'm labeling my points. This is J. It's very easy to mix up if you're not paying attention, so I have to move J to J prime. This is K prime, and this is L prime. There you go. Use arrow notation. So I'm going to say, okay, if I start at the point x, y, what am I doing with my x coordinate? I'm moving right 4, which is moving in the positive direction, so it would be x plus 4. With my y coordinate, I'm moving down 3, which is the negative direction, so I'm going to move y minus 3. And this would be the arrow notation. All right, so now they're actually giving us the translation, but we need to write the rule, an arrow notation. So we have to first look at the image and say, oh man, which one is the image? Which one's the pre-image? Where did we start? Well, look for that little prime symbol. Remember, wherever the prime symbol is, that means that it's the image. So that means that we started here and moved here. Move to this shape. So to get from A to A prime, we're like, oh yeah, you just slide it up like that. But we need to think in terms of how many do we move up and how many do we move over. Well, if I count up, I'm moving 1, 2, 3 up. And so that means that in my y coordinate, I'm moving y plus 3. And in my x coordinate, I'm moving left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was supposed to be a different color. So since I'm moving left 5, this would be x minus 5. Actually, I should have left the one. So that's how we're going to write a rule. It's the same idea. It's just we have to do the counting, and they're not telling us move it up 5 and left 4. All right, so you try this. Write a rule for the translation of IRT. All right, so if I look at this, I'd have to say, okay, this one is my pre-image because it doesn't have the primes on the letters. So I'm moving from this one, I'm moving from blue to red. I am going to start with, let me pick R. It doesn't really matter which one I use, but I'm going to pick R. And I'm going to count how many do I move right and then down. It doesn't matter actually if you count down and then right or right then down. You just have to think about, are you moving in the X direction or the Y direction? So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right, which means that we would have X plus 6. And then we would move down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be Y minus 4. And this would be our rule. So that's translations. Check Google Classroom and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.